Shalom and welcome back to Israel with Aline. Today we are in Jerusalem and we are going to explore unique archaeological excavations here in the city of David. And to join me on this adventure today, we have the archaeologist Rodrigo Silva. Shalom, shalom.
Aline, shalom everyone. I
invited him to come here with us today because we're going to see excavations that no one has discovered yet. What are they for? So there's nothing better than an archaeologist to try to understand a city which has 4,000 years of history here.
And for me, it's a privilege to be here in Jerusalem again with my friend Aline, being able to share knowledge about the Bible and the history of the people of Israel. For you?
So if you're ready, let's get started. Guys, we've just arrived at a place called Givati parking lot. It's literally the Givati parking lot because until 2007, this whole area here was a big car parking lot. And look at how much has been found in such a short time.
This is impressive because those who live in Brazil, in any Latin American country, or even in the United States can't imagine this because these are countries with a relatively recent history. Here in Israel, we're talking about millennia of history. In other words, it's much older than the discovery of the Americas or Brazil. For example, I'll have Monty show you. Over there we have a building. Take a look. Beneath that building, there are still antiquities. Now, you can't just remove the building to do archaeological work. And look here at the hole, let's put it that way. That was made by the archaeological interventions. There are many layers of history down there. And all of this, like you said, Aline, I actually saw this parking lot here. It was full of cars and the walls of the old city are right up there. So you can get a sense of how the ground in ancient times was much lower than where we are now.
Of course, we say that Jerusalem is like a layer cake because the city existed, let's say, in the time of King David. The city would be destroyed and rebuilt, one layer on top of another. So tons and tons and tons of stones, sand, earth, and archaeological remains were removed. It's hard to imagine the amount of archaeological finds that were discovered in every part of this area here. That also reminds me, when we're walking in Jerusalem, even in the modern part of the city, in reality, most of it isn't really modern. When we're walking around here, we're seeing modern buildings, but beneath our feet lies archaeology that still needs to be rediscovered.
Exactly. Two things. You see the problem that archaeology has here, and there's no way to have a solution. The city doesn't have much room to grow, and we can't just remove today's Jerusalem to find the ancient one. What am I supposed to do? Tear down that building and make everyone leave? Secondly, I know you're just seeing a bunch of stones, but there are several different layers of construction here. Some of these walls you're seeing here are separate from other walls that are further down. By 200, 300 years, sometimes even 500 years. But to make it easier to understand, I think we can show them how we came to the conclusion that there are different layers of occupation here. I saw something over there that will help people understand the ceramics.
Go there and see the
Ceramics. Let's take a look, so come with us.
Look here, guys, right here on the side, we can see bags and bags of ceramics that were found not in the last few years, but in the last few weeks. As we mentioned right at the beginning, this place has active archaeological excavations. Even today, we arrived on a day when they are not excavating, but from Sundays to Thursdays, every day a team with dozens of people comes here and they excavate here. And so they gather all these ceramics. Let's take a closer look at them.
Just so people at home understand, these ceramics give a clue about which period I'm talking about. If you're a car enthusiast, I like this example. I'll step aside so I don't block myself. Much better now. Monty will confirm if the lighting's good. As they say, those who know, do it live. Aline, if you like cars, for example, I don't know much about cars, but who does? He looks at a car and says, that's a 1969 Volkswagen. This one is a 2015 Honda Civic. How does he know? You answer by the car model, the type of seat, the color, because you know what time period that was from. We also have this same method with ceramics. Ceramics change over time. So some things that help with dating, for example, are like, look, I know this ceramic here just by the type of its handle. It's from the so-called Iron Age. The Iron Age goes from around 1200 before Christ until the Persian period. I'm talking about 530 before Christ, 550 before Christ approximately, when you have the end of the Babylonian Empire in 538 and the beginning of the Persian Empire's rule. So, this pottery was widely used during that period of time. How do I know? Again, because of the shape of the handle.
Let me just show this because Rodrigo, I think he's so used to archaeology. Guys, we're holding a jar, a handle from a jar that was used in Jerusalem between 2,500 and 3,200 years ago. I mean, someone, maybe even someone from the biblical period, someone well known, sat down and maybe used this jar.
Now, look, this one is already a different kind of pottery. It's thinner, more delicate, its color is different. Do you see? And I want to actually here, I'll show you. Look, it has some lines. I know this is from the Hellenistic period. I'm talking about approximately 300 something years before Christ, from 300 to about 100 years before Christ approximately. You can see they're quite different. We also look at the way it was fired. Now, it's no use, right, Aline, to just find one piece of pottery like this and say, oh, so I already know what period it's from. For example, Naspe has an archaeology museum. If someone finds a Roman vase there in 2000 years, they'll assume it's from the Roman period, but it's just a lone vase. So it's important when you have a layer to know the amount of pottery you find in that layer. That indicates continuous use, and when the layer changes, so does the pottery's shape. I know this is from the Iron Age and that from the Hellenistic period. That's how we interpret all the stones down there.
There are also other techniques like carbon-14. I know excavations were done here. In the mysterious place, which we will see later, they also use carbon-14 to determine its dating. So actually, it's a puzzle with millions of pieces, many of which are missing. That's exactly what archaeology is. We have a very important piece, which is the Bible, that also helps us understand better, especially here in Jerusalem. But look at the amount.
I know people at home feel the same. Wow, you can't just take one as a gift. That's not how it works. That's why I'm going to put it back right here, in the place where I took it from, so I don't get confused. Look how beautiful this one is. It still has the old marks. It's amazing someone used this here thousands of years ago. But, Aline, let's go together, since you've already done some research and you also have things here to reveal to us. We'll keep talking about this.
We have much to see. Let's go.
Since I'm particular about teaching, I want everything to be clear, even for those outside the field. I came down here, Aline is drinking water up there. So you can have a better idea of what an archaeological layer means. In other words, people building on top of each other. Remember that we said up there that the ground we walk on today in Jerusalem is many meters above the ground that was walked on by those who lived 2 or 3 millennia before us. So here I have an example. Look at this wall right here, see? You see it? It's higher. Here, it makes a corner, so it's the wall, the foundation of some building that was here, a house. But if you look a little further ahead, you'll see that this wall meets the other one, but there's no connection between them. You have an upper wall with another type of stone, right? Notice that it's another corner, forming another building up here. Those who lived there did so much later than those here. If I keep coming to this back part, I have another wall further down on the ground, and you can see that it's there. There's another wall below it, going like this, and this one is on top. You have an older wall here, another here, and one running through here. And so we do an archaeological reading of all the construction layers. So we associate the stratigraphy, meaning the overlapping of layers on top of each other. What is on top is more recent, what is underneath is older. And we cross-reference this information with the pottery we find in each layer. With the coins, this is very interesting because coins are also an indicator of time. When that coin was in use, that was the time when that layer was built, because we found many coins there. By the way, speaking of coins, Aline told me something, an amount of coins that were found here, and it was fantastic. They help not only with dating, but also with the context of what happened here, of the constructions we had in this place. So I'm going to talk to Aline now about these fantastic coins that were found here in Givati Park. Aline, I got my Bible, because we're about to get to a historical part now, which is even mentioned in the Word of God. But that's coming up in just a bit. That's why I brought the Bible, to have the privilege of reading it where what is described actually happened. But hold on for now. But I had just told the people back there about the importance of the layers and how pottery helps. And I also mentioned coins because you told me about some special coins that were found here in Givati Park. Tell us a little bit, what coins were those? If you know the place, roughly where they were found, tell us about that.
So did you really find a treasure? There are more than 260 coins, all gold, that were found just up here. Up here exactly. They were all dated to the year 610 AD, from the time of Emperor Heraclius. He was a Byzantine emperor, and all this was part of the Byzantine Empire. Was the treasure really found? And one of the most interesting things is that I think the person who made this discovery wasn't an archaeologist, it was actually a volunteer. Here, the people who do the archaeological excavations are obviously the archaeologists, and they also bring volunteers here to participate.
Do this.
You do exactly
That. We are excavating in Lachis, and we bring students from Centro Universitario Adventista de São Paulo and also volunteers. I also volunteered at several excavations in Israel, and what Aline says is true. Some archaeological finds are named after a famous archaeologist, even though a volunteer discovered them. You know, I found a very rare piece in Shahar Golan, which is now in the Shahar Golan Museum, but my name certainly doesn't appear there. A Neolithic figurine. Wow!
So what really happens? The archaeologist, the academic who will do all the work, will prove which period the piece found here belongs to. But many times, the ones who are actually here in practice with the tools are volunteers. I've also volunteered in several excavations at Bergovrin and elsewhere. I never found any treasure, but yes, right here, a volunteer actually found a few years ago this great treasure, which is from the year 610 after Christ.
Let me clarify something about 610. This excavation I did was in 1998. I was studying here with Professor Joseph Garfinkel at that time. It's just that before talking about the coin, you said that it's 632 after Christ, the date you gave for the coins.
610?
610. But you mentioned the word Byzantine. I think it's good for us to explain it to the people at home. Byzantine, often used in archaeology, refers to our Middle Ages. I'll quickly explain so you understand. Rome had an emperor named Constantine, and when Constantine took power, it wasn't just the city of Rome that ruled over the entire empire. The empire had been divided by Domitian into two parts, the eastern part and the western part. And for some time, the eastern part had Byzantium as its dominant city. Why did the city have that name? It was founded in the 7th century before Christ by a Greek king named Byzas. And since Byzas was a very humble guy, he decided to name the city Byzantium. When Constantinos wanted to bring all the political power to the city of Byzantium, Constantinos, who was also very humble, changed the city's name to Constantinople. And this city of Constantinople later became the city of Istanbul, which is now in Turkey. Now, since Constantinos inaugurates the Middle Ages and also this city of Constantinople, it begins and ends the Middle Ages with the fall of Constantinople in 1453. The Byzantine period refers to this city during the Middle Ages. Saying something is from the Byzantine period means it is from the Middle Ages.
Exactly. Nati, these specific details are from the year 610 AD. And here we have historical layers, and the deeper you go, the older the layers are. And this layer that we're seeing here behind us, it's from around the year 600 as well, but 600 before Christ. So here, in just these few meters of height difference, we have 1,200 years of history. And now we're going to go down exactly to the biblical period, to the year 600, around 600 before Christ you.
At home, the lower we go, the older it gets. Now we'll start with the Bible.
Let's go. We found the seal of a woman named Eliana bat Gael, which means Eliana, the daughter of Gael. That is, her mother's name is Gael. Nowadays, it's used as a man's name, but back then here, it was a woman's name. So this shows something very rare. I mean, we can see the important status of this Eliana, even though we don't really know who she was. But we found another seal here from a person who is probably mentioned in the Bible, yes.
That's something I want to see here too.
So they found a seal that says Nathan Meller, which means Nathan Meller. That's his name, the servant of the king. He appears in the book of Kings.
Look, let's read this passage here. This name appears here in the Holy Bible. Let's read 2 Kings, chapter 23, verse 11. He also removed the horses the king of Judah had dedicated to the sun at the entrance of the house of the Lord near the chamber of the chamberlain, which was in the courtyard, and he burned it. This refers specifically to King Josiah's reform, the notable Israelite king from the Bible. And look how interesting. It mentions a Nathan Melech. Nathan Melech, as it's translated in Portuguese, is a Portuguese adaptation of the name Nathan Melech, which she mentioned.
Nathan Meller.
It's the same name. Interesting that Mello means king in Hebrew. But the way the seal was found, it's together as Nathan Meller, just one name. So much so that it's Nathan Meller, Avid Meller, Nathan King, servant of the king. In the Bible, the compound name Melech appears exactly like that. Ana Paula Maria Luisa, a compound name. And here we have this name from all those we find in the Old Testament or from the time of the Old Testament. It's a rare name, very rare. So, having this name found on a seal found in the Bible, the chance that it's the same person is 90%. That chance increases even more when, there on the seal, he is declared as the servant of the king. And here he is called, in the Bible, a chamberlain, which is exactly the servant of the king. Someone who lived in the time of King Josiah, who witnessed the religious reform that was carried out here and had his name confirmed by archaeology. Now, since I mentioned King Josiah's reform, we have to get into a subject that is spiritually delicate. Because although we are talking about God's people, there were many times in the Bible when the people of Judah, the people of Israel, speaking of the north, they broke the covenant, and God sent prophets with warnings to the people. If you break the covenant, we will bring the Assyrians, we will bring the enemies, we will bring the Babylonians. The Babylonians arrived just as the prophets like Jeremiah had foretold. Isaiah himself said that the children of Judah would be taken to be captives in Babylon. That happened too, and archaeology confirms it, right?
Exactly. Where we are, these are actually houses from that same period. This house here is about 2,600 years old, exactly from the time of those same seals that were found here. And it's exactly the end of the period of the first temple of Jerusalem. And the people who lived in this house and all of Jerusalem witnessed the fulfillment of these prophecies. If the prophets say that God will send a great destruction upon Jerusalem, that the enemies will come upon the city, that's exactly what happens. The Babylonians come, destroy Jerusalem, take a large part of the people captive into exile in Babylon, and burn the city.
Look, guys, this is so powerful. First, just one more clarification about the timeline to make it easier for you to understand and an emotional/spiritual part. Recall that she mentioned the first temple. This is another part of how archaeologists date the archaeological chronology of Israel. Did you first have that portable sanctuary that accompanied the people in the desert for 40 years? When they moved to the land of Canaan, that sanctuary stayed for a while in Shiloh. Then it was destroyed. Yes. Called the tabernacle? Tabernacle, the tent, the tabernacle, that sanctuary, and then it came when it was destroyed. The ark was brought to Jerusalem. David brings the ark here, and David wants to build a beautiful temple for God here, but he is prevented from doing so because his hands were stained with blood. The one who was going to build that temple there on Mount Moriah was Solomon, son of David. This temple will be destroyed in 587 before Christ or 586. We'll explain the reason for this difference later. In 587 or 586 before Christ, the temple is destroyed. So anything that is between 963 before Christ and 587 we call the period of the first temple. After returning from Babylonian captivity, the Jews remained there for 70 years. Reconstruction of Jerusalem starts with rebuilding the walls. Nehemiah, Ezra, and Zerubbabel build a second temple, later expanded by Herod during Jesus' time. The Romans will destroy this second temple in 70 Common Era. To simplify dating, we place this from the first temple and this from the second temple, or Herodian period, meaning the time of Jesus. Did you get it? Now for the emotional part. Do you realize that Aline and I are in the place where this actually happened? The people who walked, who stepped on these stones where we are now, who maybe even placed their hands on this wall here to rest, they lived at the time when the prophet Jeremiah was proclaiming to the city, "Repent, or Nebuchadnezzar will come." The Bible says he did. Look at what the book of Daniel chapter 1 verse 1 says here. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and some temple articles into his hands. Nebuchadnezzar took these articles to the land of Shinar, to the temple of his god, and placed them in the treasury of his god. There were probably 3 Babylonian military interventions here in Jerusalem, one well documented, and 2 others likely. One would have been in 606 or 605 before Christ, another around the year 600, and the other in 587 or 586. When the temple is destroyed, now you will see with your own eyes a mark of that destruction that is inside there, which I already saw before we started the video. Let's go, Aline. This moved me and gave me goosebumps to show you all. Let's go. You can go first. Just a minute, Aline. Look here, everyone. We keep discovering new things as we enter the archaeological site. See this hole? Watch, I'll put my finger in, see? A hole here, another one here, and there's another hole down here too. Do you notice? What is this for? Probably in this place here, people used to tie up their animals. Maybe a donkey. So here was one since today. Look, that's interesting. Up here, there used to be a car parking lot. In the past, there was a donkey parking lot here because this is where they would put them. Usually, that's what this is for. They would tie the rope and leave the animal standing here. That one below this stone might have been used again, or maybe they tied another there. And people would park their animals here, which were the cars of that time. They lived peacefully, eating, drinking, and everything went smoothly until they realized that destruction was coming. There are already signs of destruction here, though they aren't easy to see. We'll show you inside.
Look at this wall here. It's full of black spots. Do you see them? This here is ash, literally a layer from the city that was burned. And it's interesting because sometimes if you walk by here without noticing, it might seem like it's nothing important, but in my opinion, this is one of the most important things that was found here. More important than the big constructions are these little pieces of organic material that are burned. Notice the archaeologist animals also made several markings here. I think now there's nothing better than for Rodrigo to explain what all this burned material here is.
Actually, we have a whole layer of ashes here. When I was walking over there, it's because it couldn't be filmed, but this whole layer here, everything is covered with a layer of ash. I'll try to grab a little piece here, just so you can see. Look here in my hand, all of this is burnt ash. See the ash? Look here, and I'll grab some over there too, where this layer is clearer. So there are these serial numbers here to see its extent. The gray starts from up here. Look, can you show here? You're showing it well. Here, look gray, and it goes all the way down here. I'll take a piece here so you can see. Look here, see? Pure gray, completely black. Some parts, of course, dirt falls down and then covers the ash. But if I dig a little, I can see a layer of ash from up here all the way down to here. It covered everything. Out there, there are remnants of ash. In other words, this whole area where I am was burned. They kept piling them up, like me. Degrees. DFGF was the temperature of the destruction of Jerusalem in 587, spoken of by Jeremiah in the book of Daniel, foretold by the prophets. And archaeology showed the fulfillment of something interesting that for a while, for example, many renowned archaeologists and historians with PhDs, even from Yale University, doubted this biblical story. There is a book from Yale from the 1930s where the author clearly stated that the Babylonian captivity and the destruction of Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar was a myth, that this had never happened. Before this author, others claimed Nebuchadnezzar never existed and Babylon was merely a village, not the empire described in the Bible. and Herodotus, as well as other scholars, until in 1899 Robert Koldewey began excavating Babylon. He spent 14 years excavating Babylon and found many cuneiform tablets. Before him, Henry Layard had already found evidence of the existence of Nebuchadnezzar. The Bible wasn't wrong, since Nebuchadnezzar was once seen as mythical like King Arthur, but later it was proven both he and Babylon existed. There in Turkey, there is an inscription of Nebuchadnezzar, where he mentions the Macheno. We don't know the translation of this word. It's an Akkadian word for some kind of official, and among the Machenos appears Muksali Marduk, which is exactly the name of Meshach in Hebrew, but in Akkadian it's Ardi Nabu. Ardi means servant in Akkadian, Eved in Hebrew, Nabu Nego, Eved Nego, which in Portuguese is pronounced A, B de Nego. Daniel's 3 companions are mentioned there, right? And now we have proof of the destruction. This was dated to that time. In other words, every time critics challenge the historicity of the Bible, it's just a matter of time. The correlation appears, look.
There. And actually, archaeological excavations here in Israel are very recent. The modern state of Israel was founded in 1948. Until then, hardly any archaeological excavations had been done. Let's get closer to the wall here. No archaeological digs had occurred. In the old city of Jerusalem, for example, excavations only began in 1967, serious excavations. I mean, from 1967 onwards. A lot has been found, but every day more and more things are discovered. So until the 1970s, until 1970, most archaeologists in the world believed that King David was a legend. Today, many discoveries have been made in Israel, including the David stele found at Tel Dan. Most archaeologists agree King David was a real king of the kingdom of Israel, not a myth or legend, as it is mentioned in the Bible. And that's why, stone by stone, little pieces of pottery or burnt ashes, all of this puts the puzzle together and proves to those who don't believe that the Bible really is a historical book. I think that nowadays, anyone who really knows the archaeology of Israel understands that the book, the Bible, really is a historical book.
Look, I get very emotional because I'm touching history. We have the course, The Commented Bible, which a lot of people are taking, and the students of the Commented Bible know that everything we put there is part of research. It's not guesswork. It's interpretation based on serious studies, scientific articles. Aline's channel, Israel with Aline, isn't just about tourism. While tourism is part of it, it's not the main focus. The story is a real story, and it's not just the story of the Israeli people, of the Jewish people. It's the story of all Christians living in the Western world. Because we base our faith, our principles, on a great Jew who lived 2,000 years ago. The history of Israel is the very history of Christianity. Have you ever imagined touching ancient history?
Yeah, it really is impressive. We're walking and touching history. We are certain about some things, their identity period and how well they align with the Bible. Some mysteries remain that archaeology can't explain. And now we're also going to see this place which we still don't have an answer for. We have more questions than answers.
I want to get to know this place. Let's
go there. Guys, what are we going to show you now? They are brand new archaeological findings. They were discovered just a few months ago. Come here with us. Look at this, Rodrigo. Look.
Fantastic. I'm going to call it News from Antiquity, okay?
Right, I like the name.
Mysteries too. News from Antiquity and Mysteries because... And mysteries. I know what that is.
Well, you at home, take a look at what this is and let's see if we can figure it out together. We're seeing here grooves carved into the stone and they don't make any sense. Nothing like this has been found either in Israel or anywhere else in the world. It's a unique archaeological find. Exactly, these channels, they're huge. I
have a hypothesis, but I could be wrong. I'll discuss it below and we'll examine it further.
Let's go. Let's really get into this mystery.
Well, now, we're finally at the place of the mysterious channels. Let's call them that for now. And I'm using the microphone because mine just stopped working up there. And since we're not in a studio, we're just improvising here. But the important thing is that the information gets to you. I'm using the microphone, then I'll pass it to Aline. You'll see the details there. Now, before I give my hypothesis about what I think this could be, since I haven't read the reports, I want you to tell us a little about what the archaeologists have been discussing about this. I know it's a mystery that there's no consensus, but let's start. For example, about the dating. What period are we in here?
What was the consensus, at least regarding the dating, and what did you read about the possibilities that were raised?
So the dating of these channels is impressive. It's 3,000 years. We're talking about the time of the beginning of the first temple in Jerusalem, so a date close perhaps to King David or King Solomon themselves. So what we have here are exactly these little walls, which create a kind of channel, right? These little walls, these channels are made of stone. They are about 3,000 years old. And the archaeologists were so intrigued, so interested in what this is, that they started doing all kinds of research. They took the soil and the organic materials they found here and started doing research like carbon-14 dating, for example. They started looking for traces of blood here because they thought maybe it was something related to sacrifices, to pagan worship. They didn't find anything here, no traces of water, no traces of blood, so it wasn't related to either water or worship. And they really didn't understand, so they tried to keep digging a little further this way. But there's a problem. Right above us, there's a road, a main avenue. And they started digging a little more, and then the engineer said, "Stop, that's as far as you go. You can't go any further, or you'll put the whole street above at risk. And there could be a collapse of the modern structures above." They stopped here, though they wanted to keep digging since these channels are clearly visible, Rodrigo. And everyone can see that they continue in that direction. So maybe if we could keep digging, we would discover something. Then they said, let's see the other side. Here they found this boulder, but 20 meters from here, they found more channels. So there are two double channel systems. We can now show you on the screen the channels on the other side so you can see what they look like. So that's what we know. What we know is that I only know that I know nothing.
That's my impression, but I could be completely wrong. At first, I even thought they might be connected to some purification tanks over there. Because the Jews, after the Babylonian captivity, they used to immerse themselves in water a lot for purification.
These tanks are called mikveh or mikvaot, and we have some over there, but the tanks are from the post-Babylonian captivity period.
Almost from the Second Temple period. Now you already know the terminology. If this here is from the time of the First Temple or even earlier, then it can't be connected to that. Water channels. It's hard to tell since there's no plaster. Water channels usually have plaster even if there's stone, but here the stone is just cut. What can I deduce? Maybe they intended to make water channels, and for some reason the work didn't continue. Just like today, how many public works start being built and are abandoned? Maybe this previous construction was meant to bring running water somewhere, this place here in the middle. Although it doesn't have any continuity, I think it'll be easier to show here. The water was made to go this way intentionally, but we can explain. Who knows? The original plan was for the water to come like this and pass right through here. It would be a watershed.
And this public work was perhaps interrupted, but that's just a hypothesis.
Interestingly, archaeology also introduces some mysteries. In the city of David, there are some other strange marks on the ground, older than the ones we've already filmed there in the past. By the way, people can watch it on your channel and mine at the Temple of Melchizedek. If you haven't seen it, it's still on the Israel with Aline and Rodrigo Silva archaeology channels. There are some marks there too. It looks like a V from our alphabet, but nobody knows what that is to this day. In other words, they're mysteries. Now, among these mysteries, we keep discovering interesting things about the past, about the fascination of studying archaeology, and the privilege of touching biblical history.
Transcription and video.
So many things have been discovered in Israel, in this whole region, in the last 100 years, especially in the last 50 years, archaeology has intensified more and more. More people around the world are discovering how fascinating archaeology is, and even more so the Bible, which is such an important tool for us to study archaeology here in Israel. And so many things have been discovered, but many mysteries still remain, and really there is still so much to be discovered. So I really think this is actually one of the proofs that we still have a lot to discover and also to understand, because we found such an interesting place and no one really knows what it was used for. Now, I want to invite all of you to leave here in the chat, to leave in the comments what you think this could be. Because many times people who aren't archaeologists end up making great discoveries. A few months ago, archaeologists found an instrument made of metal, and they didn't know what it was for. And a bunch of male archaeologists, all over 50 years old, sat for a long time trying to figure out what it was. They posted it on the internet. And an old lady realized it was a tool that could be used to do a kind of crochet, something like that. And she said, look, this probably belongs to someone who used to sew. And it was exactly this lady who managed to help the archaeologists who have so much knowledge to understand what that object was used for. So maybe the thousands of people watching us here can also help us with ideas. And who knows, maybe we can come back here in the future and tell you what it was really used for.
To finish with a reflection, I was flipping through the Bible while you spoke, but I paid attention to every word. Because there's a part here in Psalm 102 verse 14 that I think can be applied very well to archaeology. Psalm 102 verse 14. It says, "Because your servants even love the stones of Zion and have compassion on its dust." In other words, the stones of Zion. We are right here on Mount Zion, which was the area that included even the temple. We are here loving the stones and even having compassion for the dust. Because this dust tells the story of salvation, the story of God's people. And as a reflection for you who are watching us at home, have you ever thought that everything you have that's most precious, your house, your cell phone, your car, if there is no judgment from God, in the next 100 or 200 years, your house will also be inhabited by other people. That which you hold most precious, that you keep safe. 7 keys will also be ruins of a past that may be discovered by archaeologists of the future. In other words, as much as we should love life and enjoy the things we have, we shouldn't put all our hope in them. Because things are fleeting. In other words, today's present will become tomorrow's relics of antiquity, love, and archaeology. Just a lesson in humility for each of us. For them, they were things so precious to us. They are just fragments of a past, but as I said, a past that also points to the future.
This is sacred history, the story of God's people and the Bible.
Wow, after this, I really just want to thank you, Rodrigo, for coming here with us today. We still have many things to do together soon here in Jerusalem. I want to invite everyone to subscribe to Rodrigo Silva Archaeology and also to subscribe to Israel with Aline. I wish all of you shalom, peace from the Holy Land here from Jerusalem. A big kiss and see you next time.
Bye.